professors and doctors. Today, I would like to first introduce myself, and then we'll proceed on to introducing my research. My name is Omer Gibreel. I'm an assistant professor at Gulf University for Science and Technology in the Department of Accounting and Management Information System, where I do research on the adoption of technology and information system in general. So the topic or the research that I will be presenting today is electronic learning and the digital divide in Sudan. I'm going to look at a sustainable development approach for e-learning adoption, especially amidst the current civil unrest and the ramification of the civil unrest on the learning system or the educational system. So just to give you a context of Sudan first, the e-learning in Sudan has gained prominence, generally e-learning around the world has gained prominence globally, but in Sudan, adoption has been fraught with the unique challenges due to social political instability and the current war, and of course, before that, the pandemic. Civil unrest and war in Sudan has disrupted the traditional education system, closing many public and private universities and schools. The pandemic before that also caused huge havoc because people were afraid of going out due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The digital landscape in Sudan still has huge disparity between those who have access to internet and digital technologies and those who don't. And the digital infrastructure is developed in cities, but not in rural areas. Despite government effort and NGO efforts, still the digital divide is persistent, and many people across Sudan still might not have the access to technologies which are now prominent in terms of accessing information, or as people would say, they're the vehicle for information access around the world. So just to give a context to this, as we already know that we have three different distinct revolutions that have we passed by. The first one is the agricultural revolution, then the industrial revolution, and now we have the knowledge revolution. All of these different revolutions do have constraints that are associated with them. So for example, for the agricultural revolution, the constraints were land, water, and atmosphere, the weather, and the environment. And then when we moved to industrial revolution, it was human resource and skill gap. And now on the knowledge revolution, we still have certain constraints, socioeconomic constraints, technological constraints, and behavioral constraints. And now when we want to analyze the situation in Sudan, we need to look at it from that lens, that there are certain socioeconomic factors, sociopolitical factors, financial factors that might hinder the adoption of technology in terms of internet, and at the same time might affect people accessing e-learning tools. So the problem statement, or what we will be exploring in this research study, is the digital divide is a core problem in Sudan, and there is a strong disparity in access to digital tools and internet connectivity across urban areas and rural areas also, but mainly in rural areas. Digital infrastructure, there is deficiency on digital infrastructure outside the capital. And there is economic barriers also due to the fact that some of these tools, basic tools like mobile phones and laptops, might incur high costs for the users. And hence people might not be able to buy them or incur them for them to access e-learning tools. Another issue is social barriers, because to some extent, there is still a social barrier with the aspect of people might believe online learning is not of importance as offline learning. And so we have to start to change that perception about online learning, especially amidst the current war and pandemics around the world. And the educational gap. The absence of digital literacy is also a problem. So once you get people online or you provide tools for them, you still have to educate them so that they can get that soft skill of being able to use digital technologies. So the research question of this paper is, what factor most significantly influenced the adoption or an effective use of e-learning system in the context of Sudan ongoing challenges? And the challenges here are conflict, war, and civil unrest. In what way does digital divide manifest itself in Sudan? As we know, the digital divide might manifest itself across different parts of the world in different forms. It's not just present in Sudan, it's even present in developing countries also, and other developed in terms of advanced economies also, developed and developing countries. So the importance of e-learning in achieving sustainable development goals. So education access, we already know that the SDG, one of the main SDGs is education access. So e-learning can provide an outlet for people to continue their education even amidst the current crisis in terms of war. Equality and inclusion, digital tools can help bridge the digital education disparity, offering equitable learning opportunities to marginalized and people in remote areas. Again, with the current situation around the world, global competitiveness plays an important role in any country, and hence by having people access the latest information through these digital systems, people might be more skilled with global competitive skills that allow them to play a vital role in the global economy. So global competitiveness also might help help in Sudan if people have access to these tools. And then again, the main SDGs, SDG 4 and SDG 5 are all interlinked with access to information and hence access to e-learning tools. The long-term benefit is investing in e-learning can foster more knowledgeable, skilled workforce, contributing to the country's socio-economic development. So in general, this is the significance of the importance of this research. Just to give a background on the literature review, this study employs the UT model to analyze factors influencing the adoption of e-learning in Sudan. Prior research has done the study of the adoption of utility of technologies in different parts of the Middle East, across like in Egypt, UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait, but in Sudan, the model has not been implemented in the context of e-learning, so this is a knowledge gap that we are addressing. The digital divide in Sudan is significantly impacted by student access to and engagement with e-learning platform due to digital literacy. And the fourth point, technology can enhance educational outcome by contingent on but it's also contingent on infrastructure. So if we don't have the infrastructure set up and the skill set up, people would not be able to use these technologies. Existing policies in Sudan lack comprehensive support for widespread e-learning adoption, and that is not because of a lack of development of these policies. It's because the current war in Sudan has really devastated many institutions. So institutions are now will need to reconsider how they can improve the educational system in light of the current war. So the methodology used in this study is a mixed method. We did an interview first, students about their concerns of e-learning during war. And afterward, we went to do quantitative analysis using partial least square, smart PLS. A sample size of 278 students were collected. As I mentioned, we use PLS and we focus on certain key variables to understand the efficacy of using information system in the context of e-learning in Sudan. So we use performance expectancy, which looks at perceived benefit of user, what user expects from e-learning. We looked at effort expectancy involving the perceived ease of use of e-learning. Social influence, does it play a factor in people using e-learning? Price value, which we thought it would be of concern because many reports from the United Nations and the World Bank pointed out that the price of internet is very expensive in comparison to income in least developing countries and the developing countries. So we put that as a factor that we wish to explore. And facilitation condition was the last model construct. So this is the model in general. And the pros and cons are willingness to try new technologies, resistance to change among faculty and students because e-learning requires digital literacy, and that means that people have to learn these tools in order for them to use it. Support from the Ministry of Higher Education was also a good support. Weak internet is the con for this. Low internet penetration, low computer per capita, all of these played a negative implication on this context in Sudan. Our research resulted in supporting all of the hypotheses. What is intriguing is hypothesis 5. It has been supported, but it has an inverse support, meaning that students in higher level of the year, so third year, fourth year, were less inclined to use e-learning than students in first year. And our analysis was that students in first year are educated a lot with applications and tools in e-learning, and especially internet tools. Hence, they're more susceptible to use e-learning tools. So that's why we assume that the higher years go, the less people are inclined to use e-learning or use digital tools. So fifth year, fourth year students, which is a paradox. Nonetheless, this could be resolved by having early educational programs in terms of digital literacy at early stage of schooling, especially at the early stage of the university. So first year, so it would be a requirement to teach them all of the basic tools of internet and programming and information system. The other tools were well supported. The other concepts were well supported. Perceived expectancy supported, effort expectancy supported. Social influence was also supported. People who were influenced by their surrounding were more prone to use e-learning, and price value, as I mentioned. So we have a policy recommendation, but one of the biggest policy recommendation we want to point out is the use of public-private partnership. Many of these companies around the world are international, multinational companies like that exist all around the world. Having a public-private partnership with local universities, allowing students to access internet for free for educational purposes might help bridge the gap of price value. And hence, many initiatives did exist like Wikipedia Zero, where people are able to access the internet Wikipedia for free. This could be implemented on e-learning by allowing free access to e-learning in many of the developing world, so that people can be able to access these websites without paying for them. And that resolves the educational gap. So on the micro level finding and e-learning adoption, we said student adoption of e-learning is influenced by factors such as ease of use, accessibility, and perceived benefit. There is a positive correlation between e-learning adoption and improved students' performance. Integrating digital literacy into the curriculum is crucial, as I mentioned, especially in the first year of university, and if possible, catch them early. If we catch them early at the schooling years, then I think that would be an important factor to the success of e-learning and digital literacy. Accessing e-learning technology remains a significant challenge. As I said, having public-private partnership might help with that by allowing free access to e-learning for university students across the developing world. A factor driving willingness to adoption of e-learning, including perceived usefulness, is also important, social influence, and economic consideration. On the macro level, I mentioned public-private partnership. Investment in digital infrastructure is essential, and supporting policies that recommend the usage of e-learning and the certification of these educational courses by the ministries would be helpful. As I mentioned in the last stage here, I would like to point out the key barriers include poor internet connectivity and limited access to digital devices. Overcoming the challenge require policy changes, infrastructure investment, and target support groups. It's essential to involve all educational stakeholders, and that means that telecommunication companies should also be involved, because they are the vehicle or the outlet for people to access educational tools. In terms of internet. Emphasize sustainable approach to e-learning development can ensure long-term success and resilience. Last thing is the study highlights key findings related to challenges of e-learning. As I mentioned, target policy investment should be done, and e-learning can offer significant benefit to students. Plus, future research should look into areas of e-learning adoption, focusing on sustainable scalability of e-learning. And then the last slide here, I know that the time is running out, so I'm just going to briefly conclude the slides and the research presentation. Digital inclusion in forms of public-private partnership might help engaging stakeholders from all different parts, the telecommunication, the ministries, the universities, the students, and the faculties in one union might help in developing better policies for the adoption of e-learning across the developing world. Thank you very much.